Okay, Stephen, you're good to go.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Before we start the meeting, I would like to read a land acknowledgement. The land on which we meet has been here from time immemorial. People have been inhabiting southern Ontario for about 10,000 years, and we acknowledge the neutral people, also called the Attawandaron, the Anishinaabe, and the Haudenosaunee. People who lived here when settlers arrived and who share this land with us. May we together learn to care for and respect each other, our flora and fauna, in the land we inhabit together. At this time, I'll remind the committee and members of the public that the meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the township's YouTube channel. Anyone who is registered to participate in this meeting will be invited to speak in the order of the applications being heard. I will now do a roll call of the committee and staff for the benefit of the public watching this meeting. When I call your name, please wave at the camera and say either here or present. I, Stephen Hartman, am present and chairing the meeting. Committee and staff members, Tim Cronin.
I'm here.
Linda Dixon.
Here.
Chris Fletcher.
Present.
Jeremy Karn.
Here.
Staff, Sherwin Maloney, planner.
Here.
Nancy Thompson, secretary treasurer.
Present.
I will now provide an explanation of the procedures for the meeting. Each applicant and application will be read by Nancy, and she will ask each applicant to make a brief presentation not to exceed 5 minutes. The committee will be given an opportunity to question the applicant. Any other person who has registered with the recording secretary and is wishing to address an application either for or against will be given then an opportunity to speak. Please make sure that you have turned off your microphone and video and turned on your microphone and video and identify yourself clearly for the recording secretary. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak, the committee will make a decision on the application. Once discussion on your application is complete, please mute your microphone and turn off your video. You are free to leave the meeting at this time or remain and listen to the balance of the applications. Each application has a 20-day appeal period as required under the Planning Act. In accordance with Bill number 23, appeals may be only submitted by the applicant, the municipality, certain public bodies, or specific persons as identified in the Planning Act and the minister. The last day of appeal for the applications being heard today is October 30th, 2024. At this time, I will ask if there's any committee members who are declaring a pecuniary conflict of interest on the applications today.
No.
None? Okay. Then I will ask Nancy to read the application before us.
Thanks, Stephen. So the minor variance application this evening is A13-2024 for the Ethiopian Orthodox Church of Southwest Ontario for the property located at 1248 Cramp Road. The property is zoned agricultural and contains a church and cemetery. The applicant is requesting permission to expand a legal nonconforming institutional use, being an existing place of worship, for the property to permit 2 detached buildings as accessory uses for a total building footprint of approximately 130 square meters, consisting of the following: a proposed new 112 square meter, 1-story with basement, multi-purpose building to be used for gatherings intended for children, food bank storage, and administrative office, and an existing 18 square meter accessory building, of which 9 square meters is proposed to be used as a baptistry. And Mr. Akbar is here from SAS Construction as the consultant to speak to the application, as well as church member Burhanu Tasmania. So I believe that Mr. Akbar will be speaking.
Yeah, thanks, MC. So I'm Aidar Akbar from SS Construction Engineering. We're here we're seeking for permission to build the addition accessory building 30 feet by 40 feet on the existing church property, 1248 Cramp Road. The existing church has approximately 2,000 square feet of footprint area with kind of a tight location that the church members were seeking for additional space for some multi-purpose uses such as the Sunday gatherings storage need for the cemetery equipment, cemetery maintenance equipment, Sunday gathering, and some administrative use. So we will come up with the some sort of multi-use administration building, single story with the full basement to be able to store some additional equipment in the basement. And we are aware of the existing comments from the Metrolinx and the development engineering, and we're trying to put a minimum impact on the adjacent properties. I'll let Berhan talk about the need for the additional building for the church.
Okay,
Hi, Berhan, are you in?
Yeah, I'm here. I can't hear you.
Okay. Yeah, if you can explain a little bit the need for expansion of the existing building and
Oh, okay. Actually, this as explained by Nancy, it's an Ethiopian Orthodox Church, Southern Ontario. It's formed in 2006, and the church layout is designed to foster a welcoming environment, featuring 2 aisles that can accommodate about over 80 families at this time. And this dedicated area is known as a Santo Santra. It's set aside for the priests, deacons, reinforcing the church's structure and leadership. In addition to this, the spiritual offering, the church is committed to provide support to those in need. The congregation extended spiritual assistance and housing for individuals seeking solace through prayer and the use of consecrated water. Those who require shelter can take advantage of the complimentary accommodation for up to a week, reflecting the church's dedication to this community. And regular gatherings are held every Sunday. I'm just making this explanation to let the committee know exactly what is the churches are doing. So as well as the every 22nd day of each month, and the cultivation of is consisting of worship. The church also celebrates 3 major annual events on the January 11th, February 22nd, and August 24th, which draw about attendance about 5 to 6 or 700 people, individual from across the Ontario. And overall, the Debre Sina, the church, is stands for the testimony to faith, community, and enduring the spiritual support to love for one each another. Mostly we focuses on the new generation to cultivate with morality, how they raised, how they grown up, what do they grown up. Mostly, as you know, at this moment, we all have those who have children. We know what's the problem is today. So that is what we wanna cultivate. The moral is very important to us. That's why we wanna focus it, especially when you say Sunday school. That's what we're preaching. That's what our purpose. If there any question, I can answer for any particular questions. Thank you.
okay. Thank you, gentlemen. That was Berhanu. So I guess to either of the consultant or regarding the application, committee members, do you have any direct questions to the applicant themselves? I see one hand there. Member Fletcher?
Yes, just one question. I know that the new building you're proposing has a basement and a main floor. Is the storage of equipment to be in the basement, and how are you going to get the equipment to the basement? Do you have larger equipment? I see a wheelbarrow in one of the photos that someone sent in. Do you have things that are larger than that, and where are they going to be stored?
Yeah, thanks for the question.
oh.
That's kind of like the discussion, and if there's a equipment that is larger that can't be fit from the internal stairways, we are seeking to blow grid extends with the ramp from the south side of the proposed building. But it's still in the discussion for the technical design of the proposed building.
Okay,
If I may,
so
go ahead.
just so that I understand, so the building outline or the number of square feet is set, but how you're going to divvy up the building, you haven't determined yet? Is that what you're telling me?
The square footage of the building won't be changing. The only access, below grade access with some double door at the below grade might be discussion, and it's going to be determined after discussion with the church members.
Okay.
How big, what type of equipment is needed, but it won't be changing the square footage of the building.
Okay.
If I may add to
Go
this,
ahead.
can I add to that question? Can I
Yes.
say? Oh, okay. So no, actually, we don't want to take heavy stuff in the basement. This is a logic. So mostly like a dry food and some classes. That's what we do. Not there is no heavy stuff we're going to store in the basement.
Is the intent though to clean up the yard where you've got things stored now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions to the applicant from committee members? Okay, I don't see any hands. At this point in the meeting, is there any members of the public who would like to address the application?
Yes, Chair Hartman, we have a couple members of the public. We'll start with just the way in which they were registered. Joanne
Okay.
Broman, if you would like to, if you have any questions regarding the application, you can address them to the committee.
My main questions are about how far back the building is going to be from the actual cemetery fence.
Okay, is that a question for you, Sherwin? Maybe?
It's not determined at this time. Is the question from the distance from the cemetery fence line to the proposed building?
Exactly. I would like to know where that is being planned. I know there's a tree line at the back and the railway tracks. But when we're at our grave site looking that way, I'd like to know how far back the building will be.
Yeah.
So
The drawings provided don't show exactly where that is. Maybe the applicant can speak more to that.
Yep. To the applicant, can you help answer Joanne's question regarding the distance from the cemetery?
Seeing the plan in front of me right now, so the existing application was the cemetery is around like 100 feet fence to fence, and then from back end of the fence to the proposed building is approximately 59 feet from the closest location. The cemetery boundary is provided by the on-site survey, so I believe it represents kind of accurate measurement right now.
Okay,
I'm sorry, I did not understand what was said.
okay. I didn't get it all either. I heard 100 feet and 59 feet.
So the measurement from the back of the cemetery fence to the front face of the proposed building is approximately 59 feet, almost 60 feet.
Okay,
So just to clarify, it's 60 feet from the cemetery fence
Yes,
back?
yes.
And then how wide across did you say it would be?
How wide the building is?
How wide the building is?
It's 30 feet. So this is 30 feet will start after 60 feet.
So 60 feet from the fence to where the building will be, and 30
Ah.
feet is,
Yep. So 60 feet from the fence to the where the building will start.
okay. And across the building will go,
Building size is 30 feet and 40 feet.
sorry, 30 feet,
30 by 40 feet.
30 by 40?
Yep.
And do we know what it's going to be built of?
It's going to be regular concrete foundation wall with the wooden framed building. With the technical cladding will be determined, but it's going to be very simple building with probably siding on the exterior cladding.
So, sorry, cinder block or concrete, and then
And
it's
then
going to
just
be
a wood-
siding?
Yeah, probably the siding is not really determined. It's up to the client what sort of material they are going to be using, but it would be probably siding.
So will there be storage in there for the items that are left out on the property now?
Berhan is
Yeah, yeah, I can say that one. There is no property left in the property at this moment. The property is clean, and that's why we build this one, like so any further storage. At this moment, the property is clean. Nothing in the property.
Again, I'm sorry, I can't quite understand what is being said. I'm just asking for the storage, what the items that are left out on the property now. What's going to happen with the items that are left out? Do you have a storage room?
There is no, it's like a property. What do you mean? Is that garbage on the property? It's property is clean at this moment.
Okay, well, we could have differs on what is clean or not, but my question is, do you have a place for all the storage that you're going to require? And it won't be left out on the property?
Of course, and in the future, when we build anything, that what we're building for is the purpose is to clean the area every 4 hours. Any storage will be stored, and any leftover will be clean.
Okay, and I'm just curious, have you thought of maybe, you know, just a solution for all of us if you were able to plant some kind of tall trees or whatever in between the proposed building and the cemetery? Has that been given any thought?
Well, we can consider that one too. Like at this moment, any suggestion, any good suggestion, we'll accept any suggestion.
Okay,
Yeah, we are open for anything. We are what we proud here is that's what we want, our idea. Any public suggestion, it will be helpful for us. We're happy to include those one too. So we will open any suggestion.
so how do we make notes of suggestions that you may receive?
You can talk to us. You can come up, talk to committee, ask for my name, Berhanu, then talk to us and we can discuss, we go around, whatever is according to the city is okay. And the other part is like Sharwin, very, very helpful for us. He's very, very good person, I'm telling you. Then we can go around, we can do whatever visible to everybody, everyone.
Will this be considered in with this variance and with all this information in this package? Will this be noted at all?
Certainly, Ms. Roma, your comments, yes, are being noted in the minutes. There's only certain elements that planning staff can incorporate into, obviously, no, the landscaping will not be incorporated into the decision unless the committee so chooses to do so. There is as noted in the conditions, there is a site plan agreement that the church will need to enter into with the township. And through our discussions with the church at that time, Mr. Maloney may require some plantings as screening measures, and those will be future discussions that we would have with the church once we get into that process with them. Like I say, the committee could choose to also incorporate it now, but at this point, it's not identified in any of the recommendations being put forward. It will be noted in the minutes.
So
Thank
how
you.
do we, sorry, how do we get this moved forward so that it gets noted?
Well, that would be future discussions we would have with the church through the site plan process, unless, like I say, the committee wishes to add that as a condition.
Okay, so the committee could add this as a suggestion.
They would have to add it in as a recommendation, yes.
Okay, so how do we go forward to get them to put that in as a recommendation?
That will be for the committee to decide following the discussion.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why we're here today, Joanne.
Okay,
So,
thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your input. There seems to be some concern with the yard. And that's,
Yes.
you know, all members of the committee are here today, so we'll be discussing that in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, so the next registration was Judy Hoffman. Ms. Hoffman, did you have any questions for the committee regarding the application?
My concern is I was the one who was there 2 weeks ago taking pictures and was very disappointed to see there were 3 spots that they had trash there. And I know people have different opinions of what's messy and what's trashy, but it was trash. And that's what our concern is that we just don't want to have added things built and then they not be maintained. I realize that goes through different channels, but that is a big part of our concern. And even with the siding, I realize that the siding is whatever they choose, but again, there's a worry. It might be green, gold, and red. And to have to visit our parents and siblings in a cemetery looking at that, it's very disheartening. So that is why the concern was, or the suggestion was made, that it might be advantageous, or it would be advantageous if we had greenery planted. We appreciate the fence around the cemetery, that's much appreciated. And if there was greenery planted behind the fence, just to help with the aesthetics. And that's what we're concerned going forward, is that things are respectful. And that's basically what I'm asking for. I don't really have any questions. Joanne spoke to most of my concerns as well. So I just appreciate being able to have some input. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Judy.
Can I add, Stephen?
Yeah, Farhana, go ahead.
Well, explanation. Oh, thank you. No, like we really happy by hearing like a public suggestion. We want to incorporate all suggestion. Our even cultural background, we respect cemetery. So like we know that is very important for everyone. So like 2 weeks ago, trash, whatever mentioned now, sometimes like if this is in August, yeah, August 27th, there was a big annual celebration. So for that occasion, I think this one is raised by Sharwin too last time he talked to me. And there was that preparation, there was maybe trash left all around. If you go there since, it is clean, 100% clean now at this moment and since then. And any committee suggestion and public suggestion, we are open to incorporate it. We are ready So we have no confrontation with whatsoever. We are ready to, whatever committee suggestion will do.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Nancy, I don't think there's anybody else on the call then from the public.
I do have to check just one more. We do have a number in here, 913-598. I'm not sure who this individual is. You came into the meeting late. If you can let me know if you're registered to speak to this meeting. Okay, you're going to have to, we can't use the chat. You're going to have to use an audio, please. So if you don't have it, okay.
Can I speak now?
Yes, that's perfect. Sorry, and who, what is your name?
My name is Tesfaye. I'm one of church member.
Okay, Tesfaye.
the
So
board.
did you have anything to add further than Burhanu had explained regarding the
Yeah,
church?
just a little bit from the two members, Judy. I heard the other lady also. So I know I noticed also the like some materials that out left there. We didn't have that much space left, so we put it in a plastic. So the one reason is we're gonna try to clean that also in that basement, so there will be nothing left in that field after that building erected, so you don't see anything. For the as a Brian mentioned, Ethiopian Orthodox Church, I don't know if anyway if you Google it, so every church we have a cemetery. The cemetery is a part of our building or institution culture. We respect it, and we are going to do the same here. And for the tree, we would love to do that. And just let us be open. Any member, community, like a member from the cemetery, the previous church owners, let us have an open meeting. Any suggestion toward us or to our community, we are open 7 days a week. We can settle any issue, any problem. We can work together. And thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I think you've added to the discussion.
And then there's no one further to speak to the applications to.
Okay, thank you, Nancy. Okay, I guess now I'll move back to committee, further discussion, and how would you like? Yep, okay, I see a couple hands there, so let's open some discussion. I'll start with Linda, Member Dixon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think this question is probably directed to Sherwin. So looking at the comments and with respect to the engineering comments and the future upgrade of Cramp Road and the talk about the encroachment agreement and the relocation of the parking. I appreciate the fact that it is a legal non-conforming use. Curious about off-street parking requirements, application, and what may be required, and are we going to be able to accommodate parking at the rear? The day I was out doing my site inspection, there was something going on in the church, and there was parking on the side of the road, etc., which I understand because there's not a lot of parking, but if the road's upgraded and what the intent of that road is, then that I do have a bit of a concern with that. So
so for the parking, it was discussed with the applicant that that it is currently in the road allowance, and there's discussion to relocate the parking lot on the site as well. Now that would have to go through site plan control and probably go through, well, not probably, it'll need to go through a pre-application to determine if there's if it would be feasible, basically. So there is plans to sit down and talk about that. It's not something I could give you a definitive answer right now. But there is talks to relocate the parking lot. There's so there was a number of other issues that I also put into the conditions that I made aware to the applicants as well, that involved entering into certain agreements with Metrolinx, and they have commented, and they have also requested that the applicant speak with them because there's, to the back of the property, there is a what is a zone of influence. So there's a 300-meter zone of influence. So that zone of influence is also going to factor in where the parking lot may be relocated. Once Cramp Road is also developed, it would introduce servicing as well. So there's an existing septic there that could potentially be removed if servicings meet up, and parking could be relocated there. So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered. It's very it's not concrete at this point, but what is that the parking lot is to be relocated in the interim, and encroachment agreement is to be in place.
Okay. Is your
Do-
question answered, Member Dixon?
Just to follow up that, is there a timeline on Cramp Road? Because my sense
There-
right now is I'm a little hesitant because there's a lot of issues that are still outstanding here and the long-term development of the property. And if we start building, I just have some concerns with, that anyway. Okay. You're
in
not
ter-
sure of the timeline?
No, I'm not sure. Jared, Director of Infrastructure and Services, it's
Okay.
the timeline could be a year, 2 years,
Yeah,
like
yeah, I know.
it depends, right? Like,
Yeah.
but it is imminent, right? It will happen. You
Okay.
know, I just can't give you a
A definite time.
definite timeline.
Okay, thank you. We had a hand, Member Karn.
Yeah, thank you. I think this is also to Sherwin, similar to Member Dixon's comments. So I see that there's a place for parking at the rear of the property, but it's not clear to me where the access to that parking would be. Because looking at the map, the cemetery comes right up to the church, including I saw a few stones outside of the fenced area directly behind the church as well. So is there room on the side of the property, I guess the east side, I believe, the side without the church? Is there actually room for a laneway there? And are we sort of creating then the expectation that the cemetery is going to be surrounded by a laneway on one side, the church on the other side, a building on the other side, and adding to quite a bit of traffic along that as well? So I guess I realize there's room for parking at the rear. It's not clear to me how they get to that parking.
So the concept shows an existing, well, it says existing, but really it's a proposed driveway. When I did a site visit, that's not really a safe access at this point. So once that's determined, and again, all this that would be addressed through site plan. But the idea is that the proposed driveway is where it says existing driveway, and it would have parking to the rear or to the side, if services are met, if services are implemented. But again, it's not going to be without a pre-application to figure out if this is even feasible, because, and I want to stress that, because like this is not this is just a preliminary site plan. This is not in any way yeah, in any way, something that the township has decided is gonna happen. We know the parking lot is in the road allowance and we need an encroachment agreement for that. So that's what we know. Where that parking lot gets relocated, and if, you know, it would be the same amount. I think it was 13 spaces or so. Whether the use is suitable for the events that Rahanu mentioned, that's a question we would have to contemplate, right? But in terms of relocating the existing parking lot to space on the property, there is there's flexibility to do that, right? But again, it comes down to can we put a parking lot in a zone of influence, right? Right, that Metrolinx will have to speak to that, right? And the applicant would have to speak to Metrolinx about that. Can it be relocated to where the existing septic bed is in the future? Yeah, well, it can. If services come in, then that could be removed. So when I looked at it, there is flexibility to relocate the parking lot. But again, a lot of this is just very preliminary. We're really just looking at the accessory building at this stage and being accessory to the legal non-conforming use.
Okay,
Go ahead, Jeremy.
I guess I would just maybe end on like the parking part. It's hard for me to remember from the visit this morning, but looking at sort of the image on Google Maps, like it feels like there's trees there. So I feel like even a driveway on that side would end up removing at least a bunch of trees. And even parking in the septic system would really require a laneway going down the side and around the back. And it feels like, even though I know we're just dealing with the accessory building, we are dealing with increased usage and people using it. And it doesn't feel like we have a great answer for where that actually goes at this point. But that's just my thoughts.
In terms of increased usage, again, the accessory building is meant to be accessory to the church. So it's not meant to increase the number of parking spaces. And I just want to stress that for these events that Berhanu mentioned, that is not what this application was meant for. It was meant for for storing of cemetery equipment and having the church having the members of the church that gather on the Sunday for their children to have some sort of Sunday school kind of use. So it's very it's supposed to be very much as a secondary or ancillary use to the church. As far as the events that Berhanu mentioned and the excessive parking, this is not pertaining to that. That would have to have another discussion, right? That would have so yeah. But in terms of this use, in terms of this application, it's supposed to be ancillary to the existing church.
I see. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sherwin. Member Cronin, question. We can't hear you, Tim.
Is that better?
That's better, yep.
Sorry about that. Yeah, just sort of aside, Metrolinx has asked for some things and a zone of influence, so I did a little check on. But I cannot figure out what an environmental easement is. I haven't been able to figure that out. Maybe Sherwin has an idea what an environmental easement is, because I've never ran across the term before.
According to Metrolinx, so environmental easement is being that there's a rail line in the back of this lot, and it's in use. The go line is on that rail line as well. There is a zone of influence to capture any sort of emissions that come out of the trains going by. So so Metrolinx has guidelines for properties adjacent to rail lines, and requests where they can an easement for rail lines that are in use. So that's what that is for.
Okay, normally easements come up as a consent application, I believe. And I'm just wondering, so what sort of are they looking for on the property is what sort of my concern. I don't think there's anything we can do about it. I think it's comes under the under a whole lot of different acts of where it goes, but I just was trying to understand what they are actually asking for. And you can correct me if I notice it, but when I look at your diagrams here, this church property does not actually go right to the railway line. There's actually some other property in between there. Is that correct? That this is just doesn't even actually touch the railway property?
Let me just take a look here.
I guess it's not really relevant to the to look it up. I just was a note that it was there, and I just want to understand the environmental easement, what that entails and how it affects anything, and if it affects the building. But obviously,
There's
Metrolinx
sorry, Tim. There is a parcel that's in between, but it's still considered within the 300 meter.
yeah, it's still within the 300 meter zone of influence.
So even that parcel in between, if it ever wanted to do any development, then it would have to comply as well.
Okay, I've got no better answers on environmental influence and our environmental easement and how it affects it. So I haven't been able to figure any of that out. And I agree with Sherwin's comments there that we're dealing with an accessory building to help maintain the property and make it better in a way. So I think that's part of it. The parking, I see it as an aside. Yes, it's an important issue, but I don't see how we can deal with it in this particular application. So that's my thoughts on it.
Okay, thank you, Member Cronin. Any other questions from committee members to or comments to staff? Member Fletcher.
Okay, so just so I'm clear about the cemetery was transferred ownership with the church. It's not separate and distinct, it's part of the church. Were perpetual care funds also distributed to the church when the cemetery was transferred to them?
Yes.
Okay, so then I think there's a source of revenue here that to maintain the cemetery, but also to improve or enhance the cemetery. So now I'm wondering, Sherwin, with respect to a development agreement, is landscaping normally part of such an agreement?
We can request landscaping in a site plan agreement.
And so has there been any thought by staff of doing that?
It's definitely noted, and when we get to that stage, we can ask for that as part of site plan control.
Do you want the committee to provide you with direction on that, or would you prefer until you know exactly where the building is?
Correct.
And some of those other things happen, that then you would consider landscaping and that we could leave it broad and general.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
I would, yeah.
I think for the committee's benefit and just with Sherwin being newer with site plan applications processing, I can confirm that, yeah, most site plan agreements do have some landscaping element incorporated into them, whether it's landscaping in parking lots or landscaping in this case as a means of a buffering between one use and another use. That is certainly something staff have imposed in a site plan agreement in the past, if that helps the committee.
Okay.
Thank you.
We certainly have, yes, all abilities to include that into a site plan agreement. And as the church members have indicated, you know, I believe they would be, you know, welcoming to have that in there. I don't believe that there would be any issues with incorporating some landscaping as may be required.
Okay, thanks, Nancy. Is there any to answer or further to member
So
Fletcher's?
the only other question I have is I'm not sure whether Sherwin can answer this or not. But is the church property itself subject to property standards? I understand from the ongoing kind of conversation that was included in the report that there was a touch point back to the ministry with respect to the care of the property. But could the township's property standards bylaw apply to this church property as well?
It can. So the property standards would apply to the church, but also there's provincial there are provincial inspectors that regulate cemeteries as well, right?
Correct. Yeah, and I saw that.
Yeah. So yeah, but the township can very well monitor, and that's how this application actually came about, right? It first came in as a property standards issue, right?
Okay, so but the township never pursued anything further with respect to property standards matter, and there's nothing outstanding with respect to property standards at this moment.
So the township pursued to the point where the bereavement authority stepped in, and they had a list of items that they wanted to see addressed, and they're still, I guess, they're still, and I can, maybe the applicant can speak to this too, if that investigation is still ongoing or has been completed, because I wasn't really sure if it was or not.
Okay, can I add to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sharon?
Make it quick.
Okay, so yeah, I think we have dealt with BOA, the Government Cemetery Authorities, and we cleaned that one. They decided, agree with our, that's why we put fences and total, if there is some argument or any issue between us, we solved all those issues.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, a number of moving parts in this applicant. Any other questions for staff or discussion from committee members? Member Dixon, you have your hand up?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a comment from my perspective and just putting out there my line of thinking for documentation in the minutes. I appreciate the comments and I agree it's trying to put an ancillary use onto a property in order to maybe rectify some issues, but I see a lot of issues with the property, not right now, but potentially down the road, and looking at the outstanding issues with Metrolinx that we're not really sure about. And we're looking at a building that's not just a structure that's sitting on the ground. We're actually going to put a basement in. So it's a little more permanent than just a structure. So I'm having concerns with the overall design. And while I totally understand and appreciate that site plan control is not a public process, I understand that, and that's through the development agreement, but I just have a concern with the overall flow, and is this the right spot for this building and the overall better development of the property at this time? So I just wanted to put that forward. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments from members? I think I'm gonna leave it to staff or to the committee, the discussion at this point. How would committee like to deal with this? Member Cronin, you have your hand up.
I gotta unmute myself. Sorry about that. Well, I'm prepared to make a motion just to get it on the floor and let the committee decide where it goes and recognize the site planning and buffer. I think we've talked about that of how to get pre-planned. So I would move that minor variance application A13-2024 for the Ethiopian Orthodox Church concerning the subject property of 1248 Kent Road request permission to expand their legal non-conforming institutional use place of worship zone to permit the construction of accessory use with a building footprint of 130 square meters and consisting of one-story multi-purpose building with basement for church use and to convert an existing shed to baptistry be approved subject to A, B, C, and D.
Okay, thank you, Member Cronin. Any other members willing to second that motion? Member Fletcher, are you seconding it or question?
I'll second it if we include under the site plan that consideration for landscaping. And I'll leave it up to planning staff to determine that as part of the site plan agreement, but the site plan should consider landscaping
Okay.
in and around the cemetery.
I'll accept that as a friendly amendment, so you don't have to do a motion to amend the motion.
Okay,
And then I'll second it.
okay. Member Karn, you have your hand up?
Could I offer a friendly amendment? I'm not sure if this is necessary, but I would clarify both on the south and the east side. If we're adding the driveway, that landscaping consider sort of the whole parking and the building location as well.
Okay. So further clarifying that every stone gets turned to address all eventualities.
Careful with that term stone. We've got lots of stones out there.
So really directing staff to identify what's clearly been identified here today, that there's some concerns with how the property looks. Okay. Any other? So Nancy, you're okay with that? We add that on and as
Yeah,
item
what we'll
E?
do is we'll just add that friendly amendment wording to clause A, where we list a number of other things, and we'll also add in there consideration for the landscaping on the in and around the cemetery, and in particular the south and east sides.
Okay.
And so we'll put that wording into clause A.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other further comments or points of clarification? Okay, so seeing none, then I will call the question. Those in favor of the recommendation as moved and seconded? All in favor? Opposed? That is carried 3-1. Okay. So that concludes that application then. So those that are on for that only are free to leave the meeting. And that is our one and only application today. Member Fletcher, you have your hand up.
Just still on this application, and just something for Sherwin to consider in future applications. As far as the road reconstruction, it would be good to know in your comments in the future if the road is in the capital forecast and at what year it has been allocated.
Okay.
I can do that. Thanks.
Good point. Okay, I would like to remind the applicant that the last day of appeal expires on October 30th, 2024. And again, thank you for participating in the meeting this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you
Okay,
very
so
much.
that is it for applications, Nancy. So we'll move on to minutes. So has the committee had an opportunity to review the minutes circulated from the previous meeting held on September 9th, 2024? And if so, are there any changes required? Okay, no. And if I could have then a mover and a seconder, that the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment meeting held on September 9th, 2024 be approved. Member Cronin,
So moved.
okay, and a seconder. Member Carn, so we have mover and seconder, all in favor of acceptance. That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, nothing else, Nancy?
No, that's all we had for this evening. We are just putting finishing touches on the November circulation, so that will go out the beginning of next week.
Okay.
I'll email that out to you beginning of next week.
Great, thank
And
you.
that's all we had then.
Okay, so as there is nothing further, then I will declare the Committee of